So
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to CSLDallas Wednesday evening online meditation, mindfulness, and manifestation. I'm Bobby, and I'll be your moderator. Dr. Petra Weldes, CSLDallas Senior Minister, Spiritual Director, will lead us in a meditation and then provide some words of wisdom for our edification. I will then open the chat for questions and sharing. You can raise your hand or put your question or comment in the chat, and I will read it into the room. Welcome, Dr. Petra, and thank you very much.
Yay, thanks, Bobby. All right. So I come today to our meditation having a little something going on. I think I have been exposed to a little bit of mold. And so these things are some of the things that arise in our life. And I know that we all can have physical things that are going on. And so I thought we would make that the focus of our meditation today. One of the things that Joe Dispenza and people who are doing that kind of work really help us to understand is how responsive our body is to the impress of our thoughts. And the meditation state really provides a deep consciousness in the right kinds of brain waves that really allow us to have that internal conversation with our body. And so whatever it is that you would like to focus on in this meditation, I invite you to bring to the forefront of your mind. It could be a particular thing that you have ongoing, could be a chronic issue, could be a current illness, it could be an ache or a pain, or maybe you don't have any of those things, which is fabulous. You do not need to have any of those things. And you could really focus on vitality and energy and just the well-being of your physical body. And we'll take our meditation. We'll take that into our meditation and spend a little time with it. So Bobby's going to give us a little music, and then we'll begin. So just inviting the first breath. Every meditation begins with the breath, for the breath is one of the places where we open to the infinite influx of life. Our body is nourished by the breath, just as our body is nourished by life. And so as we begin to settle in, just inviting the awareness to follow the breath, follow it in, and follow it back out again. Taking a few long, slow, deep breaths. And allowing with the exhale, allowing things to be released. Thoughts, the day, tomorrow. And just coming fully present. Right here, right now. So what we know is true is that there is an infinite power and a presence, an infinite life that is moving as us in the world, that we are sourced from that one ultimate infinite source, and that it moves as us in the world, that there is an essential truth to our being. And this I that I am, it moves in the world embodied. We might think of the body as the house for our spirit. We might also think of the energetic space that we take up as being so much bigger than our bodies, and that our bodies is simply one of the things that's in that larger energetic space. So take a moment as we breathe to breathe out into that larger space. Maybe it's that energetic awareness that we have, that we actually extend beyond the confines of our skin. Maybe it's a recognition that others have seen our aura, or we've felt energy as it has been exchanged with someone else. That's our energetic body. And the physical body takes its form and fashion and function from the energetic body and from the essential self that we are. And so I invite us to extend ourselves, not just inside our body, but all around it, that we might imagine ourselves cradling our own body. And not just holding it, but permeating it. Permeating it in the same way that the oxygen permeates every cell. And so as we take each breath in, and that oxygen moves all through our bodies, so too our consciousness and our energetics move all through our bodies. Every cell, every atom, every molecule, every organ, every system, every bone, every muscle, every tendon. Is not only permeated by the life-giving oxygen, it is permeated through and through by life, our awareness, our consciousness, our energy. And so as we scan through the body as it is contained within our consciousness, just noticing, where does it seem a little bit out of alignment? Where might there be a pain or a circumstance that has unfolded, is present? Whether it's chronic or temporary. Just inviting that aspect of physicality to come to mind. And as it does so, follow that and take your attention and place it on that particular area or aspect of your physical body. And as you continue to breathe, hold that physical part of you in your awareness. Notice that your awareness is larger than it, that you can wrap your mind around it. And in the same way, you can wrap your energy your heart, your love, and your intention around it. And so I invite you now to breathe into that physical aspect of your body, the intention of gentleness. Holding it in your consciousness with compassion and with love. Just an attitude of gentleness. Release any resistance or concern or fear around it. For this is simply an aspect of you. It's not all of you, and it's not your whole life. It's this which you are cradled, which you are holding in the hands of your mind, seeing with your mind's eye. And as you hold it in this gentle place, ask what is needed. What is needed here for this physical aspect to be whole? Not what do I need, what does it need? Simply notice what is revealed. And perhaps now in this very gentle and compassionate space, we might ask it if it has a message. Something that we ourselves need to know. It needs to be revealed to us. Just ask, is there a message? Is there some information I need to have? And as we keep breathing and holding this aspect of our physical bodies in compassion and gentleness, it's safe for these things to be revealed. And perhaps something important has been shared, or perhaps nothing at all. And yet now we are aware of what it needs, the message that it has for us. And so take a moment of gratitude for this gentle space, for the awarenesses that have arisen. And recognize that you can send that gratitude into that physical aspect of our bodies and say, thank you. I know what you need, and I've listened to the message. Begin now as you are grateful. Begin now to commit to yourself that you will respond to the need and act on the message. And that at this moment, right now, we simply saturate that particular aspect of our physicality with the presence of life. Imagine as you take a deep breath and you are saturating your body with oxygen. So you are saturating that area with the presence of life itself. Aliveness, wholeness, the restoration of each part and piece and aspect of this physical place, saturated with the remembering of how it works perfectly, what wholeness feels like, looks like. Feel the breath and the life move into each cell. Restoring wholeness, health, vibrancy, aliveness. And releasing anything that is unnecessary. Releasing any pain, releasing any substances that are not needed, any cells or molecules that don't belong. Just exhaling them out as easily as you exhale the breath. Feeling that as they are released from the body, they move out through the energetic field and are released from consciousness back into nothing, for they don't belong here, whatever it might be. Feeling with each breath, this area is now saturated with wholeness, saturated with life, saturated with love, and your intention for well-being, not necessarily perfection in form, but wholeness in function, wholeness in life, wholeness in vitality and vibrancy, wholeness and ease of movement, wholeness and ease of all of the functions of the organs and the bones and the systems and every aspect of that area of our physical body. See it in our mind's eye as whole. Vital, alive. Thich Nhat Hanh says, bring a smile to it. Whether it's a big toe or an organ or a set of cells or a bone that is knitting back together again, bring a smile right there. Smile as the bone. Smile as the organ. Smile as the system. Smile as the cells. That is the wholeness of life. So just affirming and knowing that as we do so, we are realigning, recalibrating, restoring our bodies into alignment with that beautiful energetic field that is the truth of our being and the essential wholeness and life and love that we are ourselves. And this beautiful congruence moves as effortlessly through our whole being as the breath moves in and moves out. Grateful for the time to listen. Grateful for the time to bless and to bring love. Grateful for the revelation of wholeness that is the result. And so we breathe ourselves right back into our bodies as we sit here, releasing the images from our mind's eye, trusting and knowing that in fact, in this meditation, we have brought healing and wholeness to our bodies. Breathing again and allowing ourselves to awaken and become aware to this moment right here, right now. Rolling the shoulders, moving the body, rolling the hands and wiggling the toes. And when we're ready, just inviting awareness. When we're ready, opening your eyes and being present right here, right now with us. So how lovely it is to rest for a moment in the contemplation and the consciousness of wholeness. And so this is an important thing for us to remember that we can do at any time that something is going on physically. I can already feel less pressure of something that's going on here. Everything has kind of opened up in the last 30 minutes or 20 minutes. Yeah, I feel less afraid about it. I feel more certain that it's going to as easily go as it came on in the last 24 hours. And this is the intentional work that we can do, recognizing that we don't live inside the body and we're not stuck in there. And I know for myself, sometimes when I've had a lot of pain, it's like the pain just takes everything over, just like it's right here and it just takes everything over and it's all that I can see. And then I feel as though I'm living inside it. And boy, I remember the first time I had COVID and those first days, I had 104 fever for like 3 or 4 days. And yeah, I had to really work to not feel like that was the sole truth of me, and to be so inside it that I just, couldn't. And I would do this kind of an exercise. I'm more than my body. My body is actually contained within me. I'm actually more than that. And if it's just right here, look, my pinky's fine and my thumb is fine. And yeah, there's other parts of me that I can really attend to that are fine. And that allows me to create space around the part of me that doesn't feel so fine. And I can then do the energetic work, the intentional work. It can be very hard to do that from inside whatever's going on. So it's kind of weird to use spatial metaphors for this, but I don't really know how else to talk about it. I imagine myself as larger than my body, or my body I'm not shrunk, but not, I'm not contained inside it. And that's the piece, right? That then allows us to get into that larger universal consciousness. And I can have a conversation with what's going on with me. And over and over and over and over again, when I get like a really bad respiratory thing, I mean, the message is always the same. And at this point, my body is going, oh, you just didn't listen. You get this when you work too hard, you've done too much, and you're not taking care of yourself. And ultimately, it's my job to take care of you. Boom, you're in bed. You're in bed for 2 days. Always feel better after those 2 days. And my body says, you could take the break before I have to take over. But these are the conversations that we can have. Now, it doesn't mean that our bodies are necessarily going to become, our perfect youthful body we were at some point. And we could be like that blasted tree that had a lightning bolt, and part of our body just doesn't physically work the same way that it's designed to. That doesn't in any way, shape, or form mean that we can't be whole. So our wholeness is the ability that we have to move with our bodies and to work with the wholeness of our spirit as our body can express that. And it's not about being perfect, right? It's not having perfect, everything working, everything in perfect, like textbook perfect. No, it just has to work in a way that allows us to be in our lives fully and completely, and recognize that we're more than the body. We're more than just this, just as we're more than our emotions and more than our thoughts. Yeah. So let's turn it over to you, Bobby, and see what's going on and what conversation we might want to have.
Well, nobody has their hand up yet, so I will say that as you were speaking about this, I'm thinking, well, gosh, that's pretty darn neat, because I'm thinking of the teaching symbol and thinking that we are microcosms of the macrocosm represented by the teaching symbol, and remembering that time that you asked in class, where am I at on the teaching symbol? Well, my body's in that bottom third, but I, like the macrocosm, am everywhere else. So I'm all around my body.
Right. I love that you brought that up, Bobby, because I noticed, for those of you who are familiar, right, the teaching symbol, the little V and the lines, and the whole thing represents the nature of reality. And the top part is spirit, intention, seed, planting, right? The middle part is the universal law and the substance out of which everything is made. And the bottom part is creation, all of creation. The infinite galaxies and universe is actually contained in that bottom portion. And it's the creation, it's the created aspect, the expressed, formed aspect of the infinite reality. And so often when I ask people, just exactly as you said, Bobby, I ask people, where are you on the map? Where are you on this map? People will inevitably point to creation. Because one, they feel like they're a creation of God, therefore separate from it. And two, that we live inside the physical universe. Therefore, we live inside our bodies. And as Bobby just so beautifully pointed out, right, we're also that larger reality, and that our spirit is actually, the body is an expression of it and is therefore contained within it. But there's this aspect of us that is so much more than that. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why we call it a teaching symbol, right? It's a great thing to go back to over and over again. Like, okay, how am I thinking about this? Am I thinking about this in a correct way in terms of the creative process, or have I placed myself in the position of being simply a creation of, as opposed to a creator myself? So yeah, as Bobby said, if you'd like to join the conversation, please do raise your hand. She can bring you in. Love to have any thoughts you have about sharing your experience of the meditation, or comments about this way of engaging with our bodies, especially when we have something physical going on. So we'll see what it is that you would like to share, or ask about.
Well, I'm not seeing anybody yet, so let's keep it rolling here.
Good.
So when we don't understand that our bodies are just in that little third, and we're everywhere, like the macrocosm, the oneness is, that's the way we limit ourselves.
Yes, exactly.
And we kind of anchor ourselves into that sense of separation that we need to grow out of.
Yeah. And that's the whole point of moving into our larger our larger self beyond just the manifested reality. There's a couple of things in the chat, Bobby. It looks like Brenda had a chat. I can't see it.
Brenda's got her hand up.
Oh, she's just having a sound issue.
Sound issues, but she's ready to chat now.
Oh, great. Okay, great. All right.
Well, Brenda, you should be able to come in the room, dear.
Hi, Brenda.
Well, maybe. She said she was having sound trouble.
Oh, the joys of technology.
Technology is my friend.
Technology is my friend. Technology is my friend. Oh, yes. I have been saying that a lot in the last 3 days. Ooh, man. These are the fun things, right? So, Brenda, can you try to get back on again? I think you still have your hand up. Otherwise, if you want to, you can put it in the chat and Bobby will read it out. Yeah, we're constantly trying to pop our consciousness into that larger reality. And it's from that larger reality that we do our spiritual work. It's when we're popped out of just being inside creation, inside our bodies, that we actually recognize that we're being causal in our own lives. Now, we're not creating the universe, for goodness sakes. That's what the infinite reality is doing. It's creating the universe. That's its job, and it's doing that. And it is evolving all kinds of forms that are able to express aliveness and express more and more and more of consciousness. So obviously, I'm sure there are lots of other places where self-consciousness is revealing itself all over the multiverses. But we believe, for the most part, that self-consciousness is revealing itself in humanity. And that as we become aware of that, we actually become aware that we're co-creators of our own lives, that we're impacting our physical life, our creation, in the way that the universe is doing that on the level of the macrocosm.
Brenda, you want to try unmuting yourself and see if you can ask your question, make your comment?
Yeah. Don't know what's going on.
Terry, you want to see if you can unmute yourself?
Well, maybe we have to learn one more thing about
Terry has, I believe she should be able to speak.
Okay, I'm here.
Yay.
I was trying to send a chat that I couldn't see the unmute, and then the unmute came up behind. So sorry about that.
No worries.
So today was a really great experience, and I'll see if I can put it into human words, because it was more energetic and internal. So for the last 30 years or so, my body has been working with psoriatic arthritis, which on the surface is, splotchy skin places and things like that. But what happens internally, it's invisible for most people because it's autoimmune and things like that, with the arthritic and inflammation primarily. And so one of the things I know about me is I'm very centered in my mind. I'm an overthinker. not necessarily worrier, but I
Right.
will just follow things to the infinite, never finding the very end. And I love it. I love that about my brain and my mind. However, it can be detrimental. And
Uh-huh.
one of the things that I know about myself is with the overthinking, I don't relax as much as could be beneficial for me. So the
Mhm.
first message I received as we entered in today was relax and release.
Mm.
And I just kind of quietly chuckled to myself because I knew what the release meant was release the mind thought, the trail of thoughts. And as I very easily go into the universe, I very easily go into that place of knowing that I am part of the larger.
Mhm.
What I experienced was that my body was, my physical body was in, embraced, enveloped in this um, very large, expansive bubble around me, which was all that is, but it was
Mhm.
like an amniotic experience, which
Mm.
is soothing to my skin. And
Yeah.
what happens is just part of the manifestation of when I overthinking can turn into worries, I guess. Then my body starts reacting and my skin gets prickly and, becomes inflamed and all kinds of things like that.
Mhm.
But I was bathed in this balm that
Yeah.
was not a physical balm. It was very energetic. And I was part of this universe around my body, not necessarily directing as being the boss and what you need to
Right.
point there or lay hands there or anything like that. But it was just, I was part of the balm, if you will, of the energetics of soothing.
Yes.
And the releasing was letting everything that's internal, whether it be my mind or the inflammation in my body, just melt out into the amniotic balm, the soothing that I was receiving from the universe. But that also coincides with, creams and water treatment and stuff that helps my physical body anyway. So it all came together, but to be able to experience the universe in another way that I so love to go there and be there, and just to have the experience of what it was for my physical body was just really beautiful.
Beautiful. I'm so glad you had that experience, Terry, and that you were able to articulate it. And the good news is that now when you're in the water bath, right, you can add very intentionally this same soothing consciousness, so that it's, that much more of that is happening all at the same time. Or when you're in some place where you can't get to a bath or you're feeling like it's getting activated, you now have this. And it's something that you can, bring yourself back into so that your body can experience that lovely soothing. It's really great. And I think it's so great that we can actually work on so many different levels at the same time. When I was back in Seattle and I was in our first community, I had a lovely practitioner who was also a massage therapist who happened to also be a Reiki therapist. And so it was really great. When I would go and get a massage from her, she would always ask me, so what do you want me to work on energetically in your body? And what do you want me to do spiritual mind treatment about? And so, I would say, okay, well, I'm a little, worried or this or that about, so do spiritual mind treatment about that. I feel like I'm holding it energetically in this part of my body. And then, of course, in my physical body, I'm inevitably holding it here. Right. And so I knew for that whole hour, she was actually layering on layering on layering, working at all these different levels. It was fabulous. And so, right, so we can do that. We can do that when we need to like physically do something for ourselves, take a bath. Then in addition, add our consciousness. And then on top of that, add our energy. And on top of that, invite the universe in, right? So that all of it, layer after layer after layer, is aligning back up with wholeness. So thank you, Terry. Thanks so much for sharing that. I'm so grateful that you had that experience and that you shared it with us.
We have a question in the chat, and then we'll bring Brenda in
Okay.
after you answer that. The question reads, can you explain the spiritual part and the universe and where I can research more about it?
Those are very large questions. Let's see. So I guess the short answer is that we think of the universe as one of the terms that we use for the infinite oneness. A lot of people use the term God for that, but that tends to have a lot of baggage to it. And it also tends to leave out creation. In a lot of systems, creation is considered separate from that infinite reality and from God, from that which is the creative impulse. And so in so many of the ways in which we think about it, to actually recognize that wholeness is available, is really what's going on. And then when we use the term spiritual, we mean operating from that whole level, that we know that we are spiritual beings, we're emotional beings, we're physical beings, we're human beings, but that our essential nature is in fact spiritual. It is in fact connected with this one infinite life. There's lots of places that you can get more information. We have information on our website, CSLDallas.org. We do a Sunday morning class. There's so many things that you can read about it. Things by Ernest Holmes or Abraham Hicks or, the list is very, very long. And so, hang around on some live streams and participate with us, and you'll begin to get some good resources and places that you can learn about this. Let's see, a great place to start is a book by Ernest Holmes called This Thing Called You. This Thing Called You by Ernest Holmes is a great place to start to understand this way of engaging and this map of the universe and this map of the nature of reality. So great question. All right, let's turn to Brenda.
Good morning. Good evening, Dr. Petra and community.
Hi, Brenda.
It only seems like morning. I had a procedure under anesthesia this morning, and so I'm still kind of waking up. I got really rattled this weekend at our wonderful, wonderful mental health and healing retreat. And what surprised me, I was able to release a great number of tears. And what surprised me is I thought I entered the mental healing and the body's somatic holdings of trauma with the idea that it was about family of origin. And I get halfway into the retreat, and number one, it amazes me how much of the family of origin stuff has diminished or slipped away these last several years. Okay. And there that I really haven't held space to process is all of the acute near-term physical and mental losses of the neurosurgery and the loss of career and the loss of driving. And what really hit me, especially Saturday night and then into Sunday, is how much my physical pain distracts and keeps me in that dissociation from being present, in the fine line that if I go into the pink cloud and listen to the body and soothe the pain and comfort in that spirit level, I'm not walking around the house trying to do a chore. And when I'm trying to physically function in the relative world, the degree of pain and the amount I need to focus on functionality does not obviate the wholeness of my being, but it sure distracts and diverts the focus of my being able to remain anchored in that place. And I've got extreme frustration and impatience about, I know that I'll get back to baseline. I was at the most wonderful, healed, and wholeness developing place I had ever been before the accident. And you talk about sometimes 2 steps forward and a foot back. Well, it feels like it's been 2 steps forward and 4 or 5 feet back. And that, so if you could please talk about that balance of our spiritual spirit body wholeness versus the fact of what to do when the body is just screaming and saying, I hurt, and I need you to pay attention and hear that I hurt and hold that I hurt. And then maybe I'll let you do something else, maybe, if I'm in a good mood.
I mean, it's a great question. And first of all, I really want to acknowledge that I want to give you kudos, huge kudos, that you have experienced and noticed that the trauma from your childhood and family of origin is in fact receding. And what that means is you're actually more present in your life, because it's no longer all the old stuff that is being reactivated and coming forward. You're now having pain that's actually current pain, and you're having frustration that's actually current frustration, as opposed to layer and layer and layer and layer and layer of frustration or anger or, whatever it is from the family of origin. And, and this is my experience from doing deep spiritual work for a long period of time. It doesn't mean we don't have stuff happen. It doesn't mean we don't have accidents, or we don't have pain, or we don't have something going on, but it's, first of all, it's not hooked to this giant body of unhealed stuff, which usually then makes the current reality so much worse. So that's the very first thing to notice and to celebrate, seriously celebrate, because the point is we actually want to be present in our lives now with whatever is happening. And we do have losses, and we do have things that happen. And then we're much more able to take it up in the moment. And yeah, and for me, in response to your specific question, what I notice for myself and what I observe in others is that we tend to have this idea that I'm going to do my spiritual work when I'm meditating, and then I'm going to be out in the world physically. And when I'm in that world physically, then I'm managing the world physically, which means I have to take an aspirin for my pain, or a painkiller, or I have to sit back down again, or I have to, do all those kinds of things. And the reality of it is we actually want to marry the two, right? And so it's when you're doing the chores, first of all, listen, am I overdoing it? Second of all, bathing your body in the moment with the pink cloud, affirming that it has what it needs, affirming that you're listening to it, that you won't push it beyond what it can do, keeping the causal perspective in your consciousness while you're working in the world, right? And then that becomes a conversation that you're having with your physicality in the moment, as opposed to separating those two things, right? And that's what I see people do. I'm going to go do my spiritual work, and then I'm out there in the world, and those two things have become separated from each other. And in the middle of pain, it's hard to say, oh, I'm going to breathe. I'm going to remember that when I breathe, I'm actually breathing in an infinite source of wholeness and energy into my body. So I'm going to stop for 30 seconds. I'm going to breathe that. I'm going to pull that in. I'm going to know that that's the case. And now I'm going to move some more. or I'm going to breathe it right into that place of pain and say, here is energy, here is infinite source for you. And of course, not to overdo it, not to then to listen to the feedback. And so for me, life is 100% a dance. It's the dance between the directive and the receptive. And so I'm paying attention to where my consciousness is going while I'm also listening to the feedback. And so the feedback comes from my body, it comes from the world, it comes from, my relationships, from all the outer things. That's the feedback mechanism. And then it's what am I giving it, bringing to it? What am I thinking, feeling, intending, expecting? All of those kinds of things. Is there something wrong with your frustration? No, you were on a great trajectory and then you had an accident. And yeah, it does. Things like that can feel like they throw us backwards. Yeah. And so we just have to acknowledge our frustration and, okay, now what? Really, and our frustration can run us for as long as it runs us, and then we can choose, right? So for instance, I woke up this morning and I was super frustrated with this. I'm leaving to go to Europe in 4 days, and the naturopath that I see is in Costa Rica. So not available. And I had a moment of like, oh my gosh, this is going to get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And I'm going to try to get on a plane. And I know what happened the last time I was exposed to mold. It was not good. Right. And so I have the possibility in that moment to go, wait, I know how to not manage this and how to work with this and how to breathe. Actually canceled some things in the morning so that I could rest. I looked through some old information that I had about, I've had to do this mold detox once before. I looked to see what I have, what I needed. I looked to see what could I do now physically that would support it. I rested. I made sure that I was drinking lots of water. I was knowing that everything that I was doing was keeping it from getting worse, that it was in fact getting better. I knew that I had an opportunity to be careful about what I ate, right? Do you see? So I'm mixing them all together. It's all happening at the same time. And I knew that we were going to do a meditation about healing tonight. And I thought, oh, that'll be great. That'll be some really intentional work that I can do because I had a big bunch of meetings. And in my meetings, I really tried not to focus on, is it getting worse? Is it getting better? How do I feel? How do I feel? I just let it be. I just let it be. Do you see? And so, right, obviously what you're going through is significantly, potentially larger than that, but to spirit, there's no difference. To the infinite reality, whatever you're going through is no different than what I'm going through. There's no big or little in the universe, in the infinite. And so all that's needed is already here. And that's the thing that I remind myself of over and over and over and over again. Whatever I need is here. Whatever I need to know, I will know. I know it now. Whatever I need to attract, whatever I need to discover, whatever it is, it's right here, because the infinite universe, the infinite reality of life itself, that love, that power, that presence, it's all right here. It's right here. It's not out there somewhere. It's not like the universe is going to give it to me. It's already right here. And because I affirm that, it allows me and helps me to open up to what is actually right here, which is the energy of the universe, the information that I need, attracting what I need, right? So that's the, what do I want to, that to me is where we're fully engaged and operating sort of at every level.
So as Ernest would say, what we focus upon is what expands in our experience. And so we can take the feedback that we're getting from the relative, keep ourselves grounded in the spiritual truth of the absolute.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean we say, oh, I don't hurt. Or there's something wrong with me hurting. right? What for me, what I say is whatever I need to move through this hurt is already here. And I'm drawing from that infinite, I'm drawing it into this particular circumstance or situation. Yeah, it's exactly right. And so I'm focusing on the fact that everything I need is already here and on that causal level. And again, is it easy? Not always. No, this is the discipline. This is the work. This is and we have to, and I mean, that's why I started our meditation with compassion and gentleness. We must be gentle with ourselves, and our bodies they're not machines, and they can't be on go all the time. And so we do have to listen to them. And just as you fertilize your tree and you clip it back, and your house plants, and you tell all that stuff, right? There's on the physical plane, there's definitely need for rest and care. And sometimes you have a plant that needs to be staked up for a while. Sometimes it needs to have staked up its entire life. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the plant. And so, right. So we don't want to get into an either or situation. It's not an either or situation. And I really honor your frustration, and we can get very frustrated when we find ourselves kind of back in a situation. I guess, and then we're frustrated until we're not frustrated anymore, or we just have moments where we can breathe our way out of it. But again, I really want to go back and celebrate, Brenda, that you uncovered that what you're most upset about in your life right now is actually current stuff. That in and of itself is a gigantic win. And now you can really do work around that loss of career, change of body, abilities and inabilities that you have. And that's a process. One of the most whole people I know is a woman who was a practitioner for us. At 19, she was in a car accident, and she became paralyzed from the waist down. And before that, she'd been an athlete and, all kinds of things. And for 10 years, she was angry and frustrated, and she kept trying to use her spiritual principles to move her toe. She knew that if she moved her toe, she could heal her back and she would be able to walk again. And she spent 10 years being angry, frustrated, and trying to fix that. And after 10 years of angry and frustrated, she said the only thing that had happened is that she was angry and frustrated. And so she realized that she was focusing on what was broken about her body and not what was whole about her and her life. And that was the shift. And she decided she was just going to see herself as whole. And she is one of the most whole people I have ever met. From that point, she attracted amazing work, 6-figure incomes. She attracted a gift of a van that had all the, controls up here on her steering wheel, nothing for her feet, because of course they didn't work. It was amazing when she stopped being frustrated about what she wasn't and what she couldn't do. And she started really focusing on how whole she was anyway, and how much the life was still there and still unfolding. And she stopped focusing on what she couldn't do anymore. And she grew into this whole new way of being in the world that was really extraordinary and empowering and inspiring, quite frankly. I mean, I'm still telling the story. We're talking about 15 years ago, and I'm still telling the story about her. And that's the other piece of it. I mean, our frustration is we want things to be different than they are. And part of it is also finding our way through with where we are in the moment. And how can we hold that? And how do we hold it from a spiritual point of view? It's not that we don't have pain. It's not that we, that we aren't physically impaired in some way. It is in then how we hold it, focus on it. I do absolutely know from all the people that I've worked with and myself, chronic pain can really, really wear us down. And that's when I really work to plug into the universe. I just plug in to the infinite source. I don't know how else to manage manage it when I'm in chronic pain. I just plug it in. I did that for years before I got out of the chronic pain that my doctor said I would spend the rest of my life in. And I just kept plugging into the infinite. And so that's, yeah. And so it's the marrying, it's the living and the marrying together of our human and our spiritual life. So I'm hoping some of this helps you, Brenda. I hope that this gives you maybe something else to think about or a way to look at it. I totally hear your frustration, certainly honor you for the work that you're doing. Maybe this is helpful for others of you as well.
Terry's asking for a quick recap of the possible day of the week and time options for the future before we go.
Great. Okay, great. For those of you maybe came in a little bit late, we are, this is the end of our pilot. Really excited. Our pilot's been really good. So we are going to continue with a online meditation discussion, but we're discovering that maybe Wednesday is not the best day because we have to do it so early at 5 o'clock. So we're thinking, so we really want to move it to a time that feels more accessible. So the choices are 7 p.m. on a Sunday night, 7 p.m. on a Tuesday night, or noon on Wednesday. We're looking at if is 45 minutes the right amount of time, or especially noon, if it's lunch, is it better for it to be 30? And so what's the right amount of time? And so really the question is what would work well for you? And if you could put that in the chat, or we will be doing a social media poll as well to see what might work best for people, because we really want to do something that it's easy for people to be able to join us. I want to thank all of you who've been so consistent. I know that it's been valuable for you. It's been super valuable for me. Huge thank yous and kudos to Bobby. When we come back, we will be certainly asking her to be part of this. So Bobby, it's important to know also what works for you. Let me know that. We'll chat by email and we'll let everybody know. Bobby, if you could save the chat with all this information and then send it to me when we're done, that would be really great. I would really appreciate that. And I guess that's where we're going to end. Thank you, everybody, for today and for our time together over the last 2 months and in April as well. So look for us again in the fall, probably late September, early October. We'll be starting it again, and we'll let everybody know. Have a beautiful week.